and issue laws such that they are informative to the Investment Act. So the legislation could be way on how we should improve the investment in our country. The third is provision of grantees. This is really very important. You know, those who have money, they want to see their money being granted by the government. They use sometimes to call it a sovereign guarantee. And it is an issue that we are now drawing policy on it, and we are going to debate it with the stakeholders. Because nobody can come with a huge money into the country that cannot provide the grantees. This is really one of the issues that we are looking at. The fourth thing is the provision of investment incentives. Investment incentives for the investors is important, and we must have to look at it at the angle that we are not the only country which is actually having resources. What we have in this country is there in the neighboring countries. If you talk about agriculture, you can get agriculture in Uganda, you can get it in Kenya, you can get it in Sudan. So why should the investor come to South Sudan where there are no incentives instead of going to Kenya? So this is an important area that we are also discussing it, and we are going to come up with a policy on this. The fifth important pillar is improvement in the infrastructure. The improvement of infrastructure is very important because sometimes you can have production areas which are very far from consumption. So you need to transport the products from where you produce them into the consumption areas. So the idea of construction roads is really very important. And I want to applaud the president for coming up with this brilliant initiative to construct roads and designate oil for the infrastructure, based road. We must that the oil for the road is the only way that we must have to go. It must go side by side with the salary. I saw people discuss instead of paying money or salaries to our people. We must have to do infrastructure such that we have a good salary in 2 or 3 years' time. Because when you do infrastructure, especially road, the GPD is going to increase, the life is going to be better, and your salary is going to be more. And those who don't even pay by the government, they can get their income increased. So it is really very important to do infrastructure. This is really very important. We must have to invest in electricity. Until now, I don't see the government doing best in this. There is no country that can produce or can have, giant factories without electricity. We don't have until now the electricity in this country, and we must have to work on this. We must have also to invest in storage capacities, so that we build stores and all this, so that our commodities are also stores. So these are things that we can work on them for us to increase the investment. Finally, I want to clarify that I'm not the Minister of Trade and Investment. Trade is a different portfolio. It's being led by Honorable Paula Tianmayuan, is the one leading the trade. I'm Honorable Dien Matong, the Minister of Investment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ayan. Right, Honorable Ayan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Your Excellency and the Chair. I want also to applaud your resilience. Excellency, the Vice President Hussein Abdul Baghi has been sitting with us since morning, and Honorable Dr. Barnaba, we thank you so much. I want as well also to appreciate all the participants and in reaching the debate. I think this is really the meaning of having such forum where issues of our concern are really deliberated in such a way that at the end we need to see that we are doing a bit of transformation and the way forward. Your Excellency, I will not react because sincerely speaking, I don't know how come questions are addressed to the Council of States and yet we did not make any presentation. But I will make a submission to the office of Dr. Barnaba because on behalf of my speaker, there was a written letter addressed to him when we saw the programs and the invitation were extended to the Council of States. We requested the time to be allocated also to Council of State, considering its instrumental role in regards to issues related to states and the third level, that is the local government level. So we thought that, and having also the Council of State being receiving a lot of concerns, petitions and issues related to states, we in the Council of States thought that it would have been appropriate for the organizers if they considered also Council of State to have a presentation, not just mere remarks at the closing day. So, and even today the speaker was asking to communicate the same to the office of Dr. Barnaba, whether that is still possible on Monday or not. I will hear on that later on. So in general, for the purpose of just clarity, I want to make 3 clarifications. Number one, the peace agreement did not throw away our constitution. The peace agreement was ratified and then incorporated in the constitution, so it is part and parcel of our supreme law. And that supreme law, if you go to Article 55, it talks about members of the legislature, that the national legislature represent the will of the people of South Sudan. And it is a matter of principles that members of parliamentarians, they have very traditional roles. That is the role of representation, the role of legislation, and then the role of oversight. So it is weird when someone will complain about issues to do with disciplinary measures, because there's no oversight role without disciplinary measures. And as I mentioned earlier, the peace agreement did not throw away our national law, so it is embedded in our constitution. Number two, if you go into the peace agreement itself, Article 1.14.7, it's about the functions of the parliament. It said, it just, if you have the document with you, you will find that it remains as stipulated in the constitution. So that even the peace agreement is in conformity with the constitution. We have those laws. So now, when the honorable minister, I believe is Honorable William Deng, who questions the mandate of the Council of States in regards to issues to do with disciplinary measures, I would appeal to him if he can just simply go and review those laws. And it is a crisis, honestly, if we have a minister of local government who can even simply just question, and I've seen even the way he question was a bit arrogant, was not that really enough, but it is okay. And I'm not sure if he's from Jonglei State. He's a minister of local government. So there were several procedures, and even the Council of the State did only one. We did only one vote of no confidence, but he's from Warab. Oh, okay. You see, Your Excellency, those parliamentary procedures are not done only in one day. Normally, we have summons that are also enshrined in the Constitution and the conduct of business, and conduct of business also is recognized by the Constitution. Our Constitution is stipulated that each house will set their own regulation that will regulate their work. So it is also part of it is a law. We have summons, reports, but looking to the situations where our states are honestly, and some of the governors, not only after the reconstitution, because not it will be injustice if I'm saying all the governors and all the chief administrators, but some of them sincerely are working, and if it is just left without any oversight, it will be an anarchy. It will be a situation of chaos that we don't want. In one of the previous, before the current 10 states and 3 administrative areas, we had a situation where a governor detained 48 uh, uh, government officials, including even a female, just in one cell in this Republic of South Sudan. I think for more than 40 days. We have situation where governors, even currently in this revitalized government of national unity, governors dismissed members of parliament. And there's no way where a governor can intervene and into the affairs of the state or administrative area and just prevent the lawmakers from, because their role there is checks and balance. Because if he left alone, he will turn into a dictator that doing whatever he wants without somebody to tell him to advise them. So when those members of parliament, if they attempt to speak, governors, some of them will be detained. We have even situation where our colleagues in the states are detained. And the example I stated earlier, the speaker came with the governor and she was defending. We told her in the Council of State, if you are not correcting your governor, the next time will be you. Actually, after few months, the speaker was also dismissed and came to the Council of State complaining that the governor has dismissed her without legal procedure, and said, well, but you left your colleague and you protected the governor earlier. We have situation where governors, and it was clearly mentioned that it is a government of parties, but those governors, as they belong to one, for example, to one party, they dismissed governors, commissioners or ministers without even consultation with the center or with the rest of the parties. And we have in one of the states where, with this catastrophe of floods, the whole Minister of Health was almost for a year, the state was operating without the Minister of Health. We have situations where the state assemblies, and this is where we came in. The state assembly in most of the states are not functioning. And yesterday it was raised the question of incorporating the agreement into the state constitution. Yesterday it was raised the question of incorporating. So if no one is guiding and is helping, and part of it is this question also to remind them, then it will be an issue. In one of the states, the state assembly, since its establishment in September 2021 up to now, they don't have even structures in the states. The governor is all in all. So if there's no any other authority to question them, how will they work, and how will the checks and balance will be done with those governors? We have issues of human rights, issues of violations, issues of extrajudicial killing, and these are beyond the mandate of the state assembly, because if they are not functioning at all, then there has to be somebody to say something. So Your Excellency, I want to say that the Council of States, or even the National Assembly, it is only after a series of procedure, not just in one sitting, that we decide we want to a vote of no confidence against anyone. It's not. Number two, the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs is also a member of Parliament. So I feel like when she said that it was a general, what happened? So I think when she was talking about reforms she was talking about an ideal situation, not necessarily that this is the situation in South Sudan. And I think this was something that she should put it very clear from the very beginning, that in an ideal situation, members of parliament, issues to do with vote of no confidence should not be just for the sake of getting rid of that person, but in order to correct situation. But I know that it's all a process that at the end of the day that we will be in the right. But this always between the executive and the legislature, there is always this pulling, and it's about the oversight, and also the executive will try also to 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 be in a situation, because nobody will accept actually to be the oversight role is not always easy that to be accepted. So I understand where they're coming from. On issues related to the allocations of resources, the Council of State has been vocal, very vocal actually throughout all since I came to the parliament. And if you go to all the the the, the the financial reports during the national budget, you will find those resolutions always protesting that we will not see development if all the resources are just consumed at the national level. But the issue, if our proceedings in the parliament are not communicated to people, people will feel like we are not speaking on their behalf, but we are talking. On issues to do with medications, allowance, and all this, I think it was sufficiently answered yesterday. And I think that question was not appropriate to the Council of States. Instead, it was supposed to be to the Minister of Finance himself. And again, also I want to remind the governors and my colleague, the parliamentarians, that even in the states, they have the power also to budget for their for their expenditures. And then at the end, it will be presented. But even in the Council of State, as we are speaking now, we have received proposals and we were working on them. We actually even we raised it in the legislature that need to be considered, because the bill was one, the 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 emolument and privileges of the constitutional post holders. And actually it was not only the parliamentarian, but starting from the president up to the commissioners. And so we will continue to talk about it, but what was mentioned earlier was that a supplementary will be done, but I don't want to answer on this on behalf of the executive, because the Minister of Finance should be the one actually to make a clear clarification on this one. On the, yeah, I think if the Council of State could be allowed to do a presentation, then it will be a better and a systematic way of us telling our mandate and how do we come to all these conclusions. With thank you.
Thank you. Well, she has elaborately answered many of the questions that were raised. But particularly on finances, tomorrow the Minister of Finance will come. For example, the question on contingency funds for emergencies. This will be answered by the Minister of Finance. Increment of number of MPs, ministers, commissions, why 83% of the budget remains at the central government. Well, the first one, increment of MPs, ministers, commissions. This is parties, and it is the agreement. Unless you want to amend the agreement, that is already the highest law of the land. So accept it. But then if you have no funds for the 100 MPs or the 51 MPs increment, then this can be discussed. If you have no funds for this 7 ministers additional that can be discussed. And the additional 2 ministers, 2 commissions that can be discussed. However, I would like to direct the Ministry of Finance tomorrow bring the following documents. The budget book. He has the staff here. Yeah, he has the staff. Bring the budget book because the budget book will help you explain how much transfer do you send to the states, whether it is block grant or conditional grant or any other transfers. Bring it, give at least 2 copies to the governor, each governor, so that they know. I seem to think that they don't know the budget we have passed. Also bring copy of the appropriation bill, because when you spend it based on law. There's a law called appropriation bill. Also bring them copies of the financial bill. This gives you the resource envelope that the country has. So that will help. In addition, bring copies of the scheme of service for NRA, National Revenue Authority. There are 2 other documents attached to it. Bring them, they will help you in answering their questions. Staff regulations and the staff code of conduct and ethics of NRA, because the states have also established state revenue authorities. This is important for tomorrow. As to why 83% of the budget, when you bring the budget book, we will confirm whether the 83% of the budget remains at the national level or not. Well, I hope when the governors are presenting, they tell us whether they have made budget in 2021, 2022, and I know budget of 2022, 2023, you have not yet done because it was just passed, or the national budget has been passed here. The statement made by Right Honorable First Deputy Speaker, when we talk of the Constitution, there are many documents you must refer to. This is the Constitution. This is Amendment Act number 6, which incorporates the agreement. It's part of the Constitution. You have the one Amendment number 7, which incorporates the administrative areas. And you have Amendment number 9, 10, and now 11. All of them read together make the Constitution. So there are, when you talk of impeachment, the article on impeachment had not been affected by the agreement. It stands as it is. So at any time, with the right procedures, it can be used, since the agreement has not affected it. At any time, Parliament can use it, whether it's state or national. Because if somebody is not performing. And the national government or the party that nominated that person has not decided to withdraw him. Parliament might do that, or the state assembly might do it. So if you have responsibility, you are given responsibility by your party, know that you are not beyond the law. The law prevails in the end to arbitrate in such issues. So there was nothing wrong in making that statement. It is right. But it's just the procedures, how you do it. Child marriages in the rural areas. Well, the rural areas are not that far from us. They're not far from the states. They're not far from the counties. We have government in counties. Every county has a council, and the states should activate those councils. It is those councils that will help the commissioner to disseminate that child law is like this, is a national law. Some states might even try to have their own child law to support the national law. So we can't say in the rural areas, our laws do not act. We have to give them to the civil population. The chiefs are there, they're part of the system. Once they're sensitized about child law, about the fact that child marriages are not acceptable, they will propagate it to the people. They will create awareness. So this is important. Census, it is the tricky part of the agreement now. We have only 27 months before the end of the whole transition. We need to carry out census, but our refugees have not come. The IDPs for that matter are inside the country, but the refugees are outside. So the more we double our efforts in securing the country, then the refugees will come. Last week I had a meeting with a delegation of the refugees from Uganda. And they were composed from all the camps. What they are saying, they want to come back. So I sent them to SRRC, and they had discussions how they could come back, because they're seeing there is progress in the implementation of the peace agreement. There is more or less security, so they want to come back. The more we talk to them that it is time, come back, then we might be in a position to carry out census. Census is important, as said by Maulana William, because you use it not only for elections, but also for development. When you apportion development projects, you refer to a census. But for this method, we want to use it for elections. You need to demarcate the geographical areas, and you can't demarcate the geographical areas if you have not conducted census. The census of 2008 was rejected by the South. Was rejected. So we have no reliable data to use to demarcate the geographical constituencies. In 2010, we made a flat rule that the MPs in Southern Sudan Legislative Assembly were going to be 170. And we divided it more or less equally when the state's population is not equal. So census is important, but we need to double our efforts to secure the country and the refugees come back. Since we're the majority, most of us are in the country, the refugees can be told if majority of the population is now in the country, come back. Actually, the screen had let down the Minister of Environment because she had good pictures about in her presentation. But I hope her presentation is photocopied and you also read it again because environment is important. There are agencies, about 18 agencies that impact on climate change, either ministries or institutions, from defense to commission, those who are active in affecting the environment. So read that document which she distributed to you. I know it is bulky, but look at the areas that your state can help. For example, cutting the wood for charcoal, foresting the country is now we have problem that we have no fuel for cooking. It is only the wood, it is charcoal. But that also affects our environment. So read that document and her presentation. Actually, the summary of her presentation is good. Well, I should just sum up. We close our meeting for the day. Tomorrow, half of our day is going to be taken by national legislature. And I'm told you are invited. And I believe they will finish before 12. We'll start at 1. I'm told lunch also will be served. So from 1 at 2, we should resume in the hall to afternoon. Thank you very much.
Some few announcements while you are leaving, honorable members. We have some items being brought from Leg State that are outside there at the tent. So if you pass by at your left-hand side, you can pass and see. You can fix one.